Wow, Ding is sticking with his London opening. He is playing a new way. This is very unusual.
Bishop e2 is a very strange move. It is that uncompromising double-edged move. This is kind of the way Gukesh has played. He's played so bravely throughout this match.
After 10 games in Singapore, the world champion and his challenger are still tied in the World Chess Championship match with only 4 chances left to decide the match before tiebreaks. Gukesh, he only has now 2 games left with the important white pieces. The first one is game 11 tomorrow. So today we welcome you to the Take pre-game show with your normal pundits, your experts, Magnus Carlsen and Levy Rosman. And Magnus Carlsen, he has played and won 5 World Championship matches. So do you remember at this point, Magnus, the emotions that was happening, you know, knowing that the end was near?
Yeah, I think only one of my matches though has been, or two actually, I should say, have been tied at this point, and I think in both of those matches against Karyakin and Corona. Well, first of all against Karyakin, I won game 10 to equalize the match, so then I was super relieved. But I think in both of them, I was just really eager um to get it into to tie breaks, and I mean, one thing is that I thought I would have a great chance to win those tie breaks, but also to do something a little bit different. So we could see in the game today that even more than before, the players, well, especially Ding's willingness to take risks and try and force a decisive result, it wasn't really there. Which is fair enough. Like I've had plenty of boring draws in my matches myself, but for us as pundits, it leaves us with a pretty difficult task to sort of make something make something out of nothing.
Yeah. Let's bring in the pundit number 2 as well, Levy Rosman. And in your recap today, Levy, the headline was like 15 times LOL. So is that your summary of game 10?
Yeah, it's my summary. Actually, Magnus just reminded me of something. So he and I, you know, there's like a prophecy, which I totally forgot about. So Magnus, when you played the World Championship in New York, I actually lived in the financial district at the time.
Oh.
And I had a VIP ticket for game 12. Like a friend of a friend got me a VIP ticket. So I show up for game 12 and there's a problem with the VIP ticket and it's taking us an hour to get in and whatever. And as I'm getting clearance finally, the game is over. I like have this memory of this ending and me being like, no, that was my one chance. And then, you know, I probably could have stuck around, but I didn't know anybody. So yeah, sometimes these draws happen. And that's, I just like had this huge memory relapse. But there's nothing you can do, you know? It is what it is.
Yeah. That's a fun memory, Levy. And I know people are looking forward to your recaps of the game. So even if game 10 wasn't a really long one, neither in terms of moves or time, it was a game. It was an interesting opening, I would say. So can we get your thoughts on what's happening in the openings here? Ding, of course, with the white pieces, plays an English opening, Magnus. What's your reaction to this?
Well, first of all, even though the game continuation was not super interesting, Ding did actually have something prepared in the sense of that he went for this move Bishop E2, and I think it may be. I mean, it's probably been played a few times in that position. It's kind of more known in the same position with the black pawn on e7 and the black knight on c6. I think in that case, I think Grishuk played that first at top level, and I think I may have played it myself a couple of times in rapid and blitz games. So it's not a new idea, and the idea sort of showed itself a couple of moves later that you want to be flexible on whether you want to put the pawn on c3, which is a normal sort of London setup, or to put it on c4. And I think that the the thing that seems to be, well, not a recurring theme, but it seems to happen a couple of times, is that Ding actually sort of gets what he wants. I think it happened in game two as well, and then he doesn't try and do anything about it, which is I mean, it's not shocking. We've talked about it before. It feels like that it drives a good result, and there weren't any like very real chances, but um, he doesn't seem to sort of search out positions where there's even any faint idea of risk when he's playing the white pieces really because. I think in this case it was a question of will. If he wanted to play on with a very slightly better position, which is really all you can ask for in this line, then he could have.
Yeah. And it is Ding here. Is Gukesh trying in this game? Is he trying to make it a game where it's difficult to play and where there are chances to win?
I think Kukesh was just playing his preparation. Maybe he forgot his preparation as well because here you're basically playing a Queen's Gambit declined in a decent version for White, and I'm sure he must have had something else prepared. I would be a bit surprised if this is what he actually intended. And seeing as he spent half an hour on the move knight h5 next, it could have been prep, but I somehow doubt it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will add here that for most people watching at home, the London with the bishop on d3 is by far the more natural thing, and I would generally say they shouldn't put the bishop on e2. I remember maybe last year, I was preparing for somebody who had played the move bishop to e2 in a London before, and I never saw it in my life. But I actually found that with black, it's quite annoying to sort of choose a setup. Yeah, it's just like one of these annoying things. Like what can happen is what basically happened in this game. And for me, let's say 23, 2400 rated player, especially if you play like a 2200 rated player, it's a little bit annoying. Like you have to take some more risks. So I was kind of shocked to see it at the World Championship. But I will say, and we can kind of move forward. Magnus, you can pull us back if you want. Like all this knight h5 stuff, everything, bishop g5, all of this has been played before. We can go another move forward. And there was one game that I saw in the database, which was, and one more move forward right here, Melkumian versus Šarić, and White took on f6 with the bishop. That was the imbalance that he went after. He put like queen on c2, and he played that position, and White ended up winning just because of piece activity and so on. So yeah, Ding didn't do that at all. He just traded literally everything, and I don't know. There was the only imbalance was the pawn structure. But I woke up here and was like, oh, recap is going to be in like 20 minutes. It was like, that's the end of that game.
Can I ask you then a really beginner's question? What is it about this position? How do you see immediately that this is a draw? Is it the symmetry?
Yeah, I think it's as simple as that. There is just very little potential here for imbalancing the position. Having said that, Gukesh actually lost a similar game in the European Club Cup to Dmitry Andreikin just, I think a month and a half ago. Maybe that was on Ding's mind. I think that was a similar symmetrical position where Gukesh has these double pawns, but. Yeah, of course, against the player of considerably lower strength, you can outplay your opponent here, but as long as Black is able to complete his development with the bishop, then there's just very, very little in it. The only thing even resembling a weakness in this position is the black pawn on h7. But if he plays remotely decently, it doesn't really matter. And since there are two open files here, you'll occupy them with rooks, and by far the most likely outcome is that both rooks will be exchanged, and then yeah, it's it's not going to be it's not going to be very interesting. And as we saw, Ding didn't even really pretend. He just took the vacuum out and swept as many pieces off the board as he could, and as we could see, Gukesh duly obliged as well.
Cleaning day in the World Chess Championship match. We didn't find many good moments to send out push notifications from the Take app. So are we done talking about this game then, or is there any more moments to talk about?
I just want to add one thing. 2014, Salem Saleh, the pride of the UAE, the Arabic Falcon, versus Vladimir Kramnik in the Qatar Masters tournament. Kramnik won an endgame where he had the white structure here. So he had a position where black had an isolated h-pawn and doubled f-pawns, and Kramnik managed to walk his king all the way to the h-pawn and win it. Basically the point is that if anybody could have tried to push this game, maybe it was Ding, because in the other game it was Kramnik who had the balanced structure, but he was playing black. That didn't happen. So there's a little bar trivia for the audience.
Yeah.
And you could tell that there were absolutely zero winning chances for black by the fact that even Gukesh didn't think it was worth trying. But I think we can go back a number of moves before all the pieces started getting exchanged, because that was, I wouldn't say that the game started promisingly, but still, I want to reiterate that I felt like Ding had like a little something, and Levy mentioned one possibility of taking with the bishop there. I kind of liked trading the queen on d8 there, instead of moving the knight to e4. You could have traded the queen, and there are ideas there when you can push the black knight away from h5 with g4, g5, getting a bit of space, and maybe it's all a temporary initiative, but there are some lines where you go knight to e5 and then try and capture the black bishop when it develops to d7. And claim that your bishop is a little bit better than the knight. Like, this is not like a complete nothing position. Apart from that, a thematic idea in the Queen's Gambit, if Ding wanted to make the game considerably less balanced, is that he could have ignored the attack on his bishop on f4. He could have made a move like queen to e2. And later with the knight on h5. He could have ignored the attack on like queen to e2, accepted the fact that black captures on f4, and white does have some initiative there with the rook coming to the d file. You can use the e4 square maybe for your queen, looking at ideas like knight g5 attacking, or f5 opening up the position there as well. And yes, of course, black has some longer term trumps with nominally better pawn structure and a bishop pair, but for the moment, white is better developed and the black bishop is not yet into the game. I don't think white is necessarily objectively better, but if you really wanted to win this game, then that was one game one thing you could have looked at. But honestly, like this sequence of bishop g5 and then knight e4 taking f6, it's understandable. It's just a bit sad, and yeah, incredibly uninteresting.
Yeah, it was eventually a draw, game 10 in Singapore. And even if the game wasn't too interesting, at least after the opening here, then every game in a World Chess Championship has its intensity, has its story, because every single move can win you, can lose you the World Chess Championship title. And I want to talk about the match situation now, you guys. So the score is 5-5. There are only 4 games to go. And let me remind you about what the chess world said only 2 months ago. Who do you think will win?
Yeah, right now I would pick Gukesh.
Gukesh?
Gukesh.
Gukesh's been doing better than ever. Now at the Olympiad board 1, he's crushing it.
Gukesh was like a monster.
I think it will be a massacre. Gukesh will, he will just crush it.
It would be absolutely insane if that's not going to happen the way it seems shaping up to be.
It will be insane if the match isn't a massacre, if Gukesh doesn't win by huge numbers. What did the chess world miss 2 months ago that hasn't happened? Levy.
You know, honestly, in all those clips, I feel most bad for Arjun Erigaisi because he is like such a soft-spoken guy. He unironically lets the chess speak for itself. And all his games are exciting, dynamic. You know, he's 2,800 plus. The one time he put out a sound bite, he could not have been more wrong. But the thing is, there's still time, Kaya. I mean, Gukesh could theoretically win 4 games in a row. You know, he could. I think a match is just different. I think that's the one sentence answer. I will let my much more qualified co-pundit who speaks about matches, give his take. But yeah, match is not Olympiad. It's a very different format. Nerves are different and so on.
Actually, this is not the first time. I during before the World Cup last year, I was due to play either Harsha Baratakoti from India or Levan Pansulaya from Georgia, and I was teammates with Arjun and Prague and Gukesh and a few others in the Global Chess League, and I think Arjun especially was quite adamant that, well, you're gonna play Harsha in the first round, and guess what? It turned out to be Pansalaya because Harsha lost that match. So it just seems that Arjun really does not know how to pick his spots. But I think one thing that is absent from all of these predictions is the 2 people in this studio. I said, well, deliberately, vaguely, that I thought there was more than 50% chance that this match was going to be a dogfight. And this result does not prove that this result does not disprove that Gukesh was a significant favorite at the start. As we've seen, like, Ding hasn't really tried to win games, and Gukesh has had more chances, at least in recent games, even though Ding has had his chances as well. So from the way the match has gone, it's not unreasonable to say still that Gukesh deserved to be a significant favorite. I think it's clear that he's not anymore, but that doesn't mean that people were wrong. It's just that these matches tend to be quite even, even if there is a favorite. It's just sort of the way it is. It's hard to really win these matches in a blowout. Like, the way these matches end up in blowouts is if the favorite gets the first win early on, then the underdog often loses faith a bit. And this, as Levy said, this could still happen, but it's getting less likely by the minute. And I think now the odds are that we are going to see a game 14, and we're probably entering a territory where it's more than 50% chance that we're going to see a tiebreak as well.
And on that note, for the final 4 games, we definitely will see 13 games. Sorry about that. What do you guys predict in terms of ambition? What kind of games and what kind of results will we see in the final 4 classical games? I'll start with you, Magnus.
I don't think too much will change. I think it's still all up to Gukesh. Ding will maybe give it some mini try with the white pieces in in game in game 12 if it's still tied. If it's still tied going into game 14, I don't think he's going to make the same mistake as he did last time and almost lose with the white pieces, even though he didn't quite get punished there. I think he's learned from that, and he's just gonna try and be very, very safe if that happens. So essentially we have two Gukesh white games where um he, he he's gonna try and do something. So let's see what he has. I still think that his best chance is probably go into the French defense. Who knows? Maybe by now Ding has prepared sort of a one-off surprise that he thinks he can get away with in one game. Maybe he thinks like if it's only one game, I can play my E5 repertoire and be fine. Who knows? But yeah, to put it simply, it's all up to Gukesh. If Ding has his will, this we're not gonna have a lot more to talk about in the next three recaps. Hopefully.
Well, but that is the point, right? Gukesh has 2 games left with the white pieces. The first one is tomorrow, game 11. And everyone's saying that Ding is a favorite in the tiebreaks with faster time controls. And if Gukesh feels the same way, then in my head, game 11 will be the game that he has to go for it because he doesn't want to have one more white game and having to win that one. Do you expect fireworks tomorrow, Levy?
You know, not like nothing crazy. Obviously, I expect more fireworks than when Ding is getting the white pieces, but the last time that Gukesh had the black pieces, he still found a way to get a fight, right? And that was the English game. So, as Magnus said, there is this looming question of has Team Gukesh gotten enough time to do their homework, to play E4 again, and pose Ding some problems? While that is going on, does Ding have an ace up his sleeve? Is he going to play E4, E5? Will he play like a Sicilian? You know, like Ding is not a big Sicilian player. Will he surprise Gukesh in an E4? That's not really what I think is going to happen, but it's sort of the big theme. And throughout this match, I have been trying to identify what Ding's game plan is. Let's not forget, he literally won a world championship without leading in a match until the final rapid game. So, I mean, if that's the plan, like if the plan is be as patient as possible and don't rush and let Gukesh come to you, yeah, great. We might sit here in what is it, like 6 days time and be like, this was, you know, the best match strategy ever. But yeah, I expect a fight from Gukesh, but I don't think he's going to go crazy. Let's not forget, you lose a game. You lose a game against Ding with 3 games to go, Magnus. He'll draw you right out of the building. So you got to be really careful.
Yeah, but we're getting into very interesting territory here, also sort of more game theory wise, because I think there's this thing called sudden death aversion, which a lot of people, both like sports teams and players as well, they experience. For instance, in the game that you went to, Levy, in 2016, with Karyakin, I for instance, I believe that Karyakin should probably have tried to complicate the 12th game a lot, instead of sort of acquiescing to a short draw, because he is a significant underdog in the tiebreak, and it's probably better to take his chances in the classical. The problem with that is that could very well lead to losing the game, and then you feel silly for not even giving yourself a chance in the tiebreak, even though you might be making the wrong sort of game theoretical decision. And we have this situation again, as you talked about, Kaya. How much of an underdog does Gukesh really feel that he is in Rapid, because he feels that Ding is like a 75% favorite, which I'm not sure that he is. I think that's probably a bit much. Then that changes his whole risk profile in the next few games. Then he really should go for it. Even in a game 14, he should not um try and make a safe draw if Ding wants it. I think Hammer wrote about it on Twitter today. He mentioned it privately to me as well, that he thought that specifically today Ding was going to put more pawns in the center, so that Gukesh wouldn't have the chance to unbalance the game the way he did in the last game that he was black in the English defense. English opening. So I think we will probably see that from Ding as well. He will make it as difficult as possible for Gukesh to complicate the game as black, and that we are really going to see what kind of pressure Gukesh can put with the white pieces. Sure, he can try some sort of mini idea in the Catalan as he did last time. But I'm not sure if the situation calls for it. Let's say you do that in a game 11, and then you get to game 13. Then what do you do, right? It's, yeah, of course, the game not super interesting today. But for the match as a whole, for all the scenarios that are, it's quite intriguing.
Yeah, definitely. And at the press conference today, the players were asked if they now feel the pressure of every single move. Let's hear.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously now a cost of one game is higher than it was maybe in the start of the few or a few games before, but yeah, I mean my my approach and my goal is still the same, to play good games in every single game. And it's like, if you think about it, it's not that different, because also even though the cost of losing, for example, the first game is not that high, I would still not want to lose that game. So it's it's still that I just want to play good games and yeah, hope for the best.
Yes, that means there's not so much room to make mistakes. Every lose will result in a very bad situation. And we need to be careful at every move.
Yeah, Ding is saying he needs to be careful with every move. Is that what you think? Do you think like that when you're sitting by the board in the World Championship, Magnus? You know, okay, be careful. Be careful.
I mean, not necessarily. I think Ding has partially been thinking that way the whole match, which is why he's been spending so much time. I think it depends on the situation. Really, I remember the 12th and final game against Caruana. We got a complicated position from the opening. Like he was surprised, and then he actually refused a draw by a repetition in the opening, which I thought was quite brave. And then we just had a complicated position where we both had chances, and I remember being quite calm. I just think I was at some point playing quite quickly. I was just making the moves that seemed natural to me and not thinking so much about the consequences. Maybe if you get concrete choices, then you think about it a bit more. But generally, you try and try and play chess. So yeah, it's more about certain concrete choices where you might want to take less or more risk. And yeah, honestly, at this point, it's not like it's been different than the match before, but Gukesh probably should take more risks than he has before.
Okay, interesting. And before we wrap up, I want to ask you guys. So over the last couple of days, you've been placing the match bar in the middle. You've said it's 50-50. Is it still 50-50, or is it going slightly in either direction? What do you think?
If you ran this match 100 times from this point forward, how many times would Ding win and how many times would Gukesh win? It's probably about 55-45. But I'm really not sure for who, if I'm totally honest. I'm not particularly convinced either way. And I feel like whatever I say now is going to turn out like Arjun. I'll say, oh, Ding is, favored in Rapid, and then, Gukesh will show up and win every Rapid game or something. Like, the match is unpredictable to that extent that I'm sort of afraid. So I'll let Magnus get the viral clip on this one.
No, if you think about it from the perspective that if you assume that the match was a pure 50-50 before this game, maybe it's like 52-48 for Yukesh now or something, because this result was very slightly favorable to him. But honestly, it's I think it's very, very balanced. It depends on how you weigh uh, the fact that Gukesh, or if you assume that Gukesh is a slight favorite in the remaining classical games, and then Ding is a slight favorite in the Rapid, then I think it kind of evens out. But very, very slight edge to Gukesh I would say, but I do not feel confident about either of them at this point.
Okay.
I'll just say, Kaya, like, just before we sign off, just for this is very interesting for me to think about, and I wonder if it's interesting for folks at home. I know there's no other way to do it. I mean, they used to do it that if the match is tied, the person with the championship retains it. That we know in 1984 the match didn't even end, so they have to break the tie somehow. What I find fascinating is we force these guys to play Rapid, and it's not just 25-minute Rapid. This time it's 15-minute Rapid. So it's like serious Rapid. I mean, it's like very, very fast compared to the time control they have to play. And if you look at their rating histories, they don't play much Rapid. So, Magnus, how much Rapid practice do these guys even get on a yearly basis if, they play 10 times as many classical games? It seems unfathomable that a 4-game, 15-minute match decides the World Championship, but that's just how we do it. So I guess that was 2 questions in one.
Yeah, first of all, I think Ding has played quite a lot of Championship Tour events, maybe not recently, but in the past, and he's generally been successful as well. So I feel like, at least in the past, he's had decent practice there. I assume when they play training games, there's some sort of rapid time control as well, probably a bit faster. But it's the way it is in every sports. There are tie breaks in tennis. There's extra time and penalty shootouts. It's in football. There's overtime in basketball. There's overtime in hockey. There's overtime in the NFL. Like, it's just the way we decide sports. When the match is tied, you widen the goals. That's just the way it is. Like, you have to end it at some point. And I do like the fact that you get to showcase some different skills after a long match. Having said that, I probably would agree that at least in a vacuum, having a little bit longer rapid time control would not be a bad idea. I guess it's partly for the players that if you end up playing a long tie break, the day could last for a really, really long time, and it could be decided by fatigue more than anything else at that point. But I think what we saw last time was that actually the rapid tie break was of, I think, a very high quality from both players mostly until Jan lost control right at the end. So that was certainly an argument for the longer rapid, but apparently I mean, I'm sure they have their reasons. The players agreed to it, so we'll see if it happens. At this point, it's quite likely.
Wow. It's going to be an exciting finish. My final question, because you spoke about other sports, and we see in the Hollywood movies, in the locker rooms at halftime when it's tied and you need to win because it's sudden death or something like that. The coaches, the managers give these incredible speeches that pumps up the team or pumps up the players. And I imagine Gukesh's team has to give him this speech tonight to get him ready for game 11. His second to last chance with the white pieces. What would you tell him, Magnus?
Well, you have this thing in chess called openings that makes those speeches a lot more difficult, unfortunately.
No.
So, what can I say? I mean, I'm a massive downer about this whole thing. I know that, but I think Gukesh generally has a good mindset, so I'm not sure they need to tell him that much. We know that he wants to win every single game, so they don't have to motivate him on that part. So
Did your father
we'll see.
or Peter at any point in your World Championship career give you some sort of if not a speech, just like a, Magnus, this is your time, go get him, something like that? Has it ever happened?
No, I mean I've had my more difficult moments during World Championships for sure, but yeah, what they've been doing is no more than sort of just try and calm down, have fun most of all, and you know, you're good at this game, you'll probably do well.
That's a
But
speech.
yeah, something, but it hasn't been like a major part of it for sure.
Levy, are you excited about game 11?
Yeah. I look forward to this 4-game match, and let me tell you, if sleeping was difficult before the World Championship started, it's going to be way more difficult before the tiebreak starts. So,
yeah.
One night to get some rest, and then decide the World Championship crown. I have spoken about this on many interviews and shows and everything, and over the last 4 years, the degree to which chess has blown up, part of me really can't help but feel like the top level did not get to experience the same amount of buzz and excitement, and definitely a part of that is sort of rooted in being stuck in the tradition of the one-on-one World Championship classical format. And well, we will crown one in a week, but part of me is still like, chess would be really riveting and thrilling and exciting, and we wouldn't have all these different narratives. Magnus is not playing and so on. If we had let's say a tennis system with Grand Slams and kind of majors and everything. But look, I'm not going to go on that big spiel now. But I just did. We kind of have the same looping conversation every 2 years about World Championship format, tie breaks, and this and that and this and that. And I don't know.
I will say one thing though. So when your question was about whether we were excited, Gukesh is playing white.
Yeah.
That automatically makes us a lot more excited than Ding is playing white. But
I love to hear it.
Yeah.
Levy and Magnus, thank
we'll
you so much. Exactly. We will see tomorrow. And Levy and Magnus, thank you so much again for your time and for your predictions. Game 11 is tomorrow. Will Gukesh take his white pieces into attack and go for the win? Download the Take app to get notified when the game starts, when the action happens, and join us again here in the Take studio, both for the live show and for the recap with these two guys. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.